Hi everyone, welcome to today's edition of I Effing Love Cinema. It is a drunken Saturday night. I'm recording this on a Saturday. Honestly, these are my favorite types of ones to do because drinking is fun in moderation, responsibly, of course. But also because like these are when like when I'm drinking on a Saturday. These are when I watch like my most like just pure entertainment movies, right? This is my pure entertainment night. Like, I don't believe in that whole shutting your brain off shit. Like, I believe that for me, even when I do put on quote unquote mindless movies, like I can't help but have that critical mindset, and that's not a bad thing for me. Like I love that. I love doing that. I love giving every movie I watch or every song I listen to like serious like credit and consideration and all that shit. Um, but okay, see, this is the problem when you do like a drunken like episode. You kind of ramble a little bit, right? So I'm rambling right now. But okay, so today's episode is about Sam Raimi's 2009, I believe it was 2009, horror film Drag Me to Hell. And this is my first watch, my third watch of the film, but my first watch of the unrated version. And also this is my first watch of the 5.1 surround sound mix since I saw it in theaters. I did see this movie in theaters when it first came out. Like Raimi, it's my boy, right? Haven't seen I haven't seen Evil Dead Rise yet, but it's another story for another day. Drag Me to Hell to me, it's just like a super underrated like 2000s horror movie to me. It's because the story itself is about authenticity, and it's a weird way like a movie about capitalism as well, right? About the sort of monsters we have to become to adhere to succeed under capitalism. I don't think the fact that the witch, the sort of the person who sets the events of this movie in motion, is a gypsy. Considering gypsies are known for their sort of egalitarian lifestyle and stuff like that. I mean, it's buried in there if it's even intentional at all, but you know, then you can have that whole conversation about intentionality and stuff like this, and death of the author, whatever you want to say. Regardless, as a democratic socialist, I do view this film as a pretty solid critique of capitalism and what it does to the human condition. And that's just one angle, of course, and that's just me as a person bringing my baggage into it. But let's go ahead and talk about the movie itself, right? Um, what I was really able to appreciate on this viewing specifically was the sound design, and like I really cannot recommend enough. If you're gonna watch this movie, watch it in 5.1. I watched it on my like PlayStation 5 point like fake 5.1 headphones, which is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, those fake 5.1 is pretty convincing, and it does really well here. I was telling Lindsay that like what, after seeing this, once if I ever do get to build my big home theater like dream setup, I'm totally gonna put this movie on like on the first week, just after hearing the sound design here. What's so awesome about the sound design is that like I mean this is Raimi, right? Raimi knows how to shoot horror and Raimi knows how to shoot action, and you could just like watching the sort of set pieces in this movie, and this movie has a good number of them. That's what's the beautiful thing about this movie is that it is not just a very well written story, but it's also a showcase for literal set pieces, right? Like pieces in like there's a great horror scene. Like the movie opens up with a great horror action set piece. Then there's a great action set, like horror action set piece in a car. And there's just like a series of action horror set pieces that are shot like they're Spider Man, right? Like they're shot like the Spider Man Raimi movies, but they're super smaller scale, super more like way more intimate, way more creative too, right? Because you're not working with that level of special effects. It can be a little more loose, and it's Raimi, so he knows how to have fun. He knows how to have fun with the camera and with the editing and all that. So not only do you get this really great rhythm of editing and camera movement, but you also have just this rich and super detailed sound design. God, honestly, like this movie is just as much a set piece for its visuals as it is for its audio. I had so much fun just listening to this movie, just listening to the detail and what's going on, and really I really cannot praise this movie enough for just having peak, and I cannot stress this enough, peak spooky vibes. I'm glad I watched it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's ever a bad time to watch this movie, but my God, am I looking forward to watching this movie again around Christmas time, because this is such a classic horror story. And I know I've said that phrase a few times in IF and Love Cinema. And what I mean by like pure horror is that like horror, you have this quote unquote elevated horror, which is, a bullshit term. But usually, in the most fairest usage of that word, what it's referring to, it's dramas that, have horror aesthetics, And I'm not knocking that because I love that. Like, I love Dave Eggers' first two movies. I love Hereditary. I love Midsummer. Okay. Mixed feelings about that. But I love this sort of quote unquote, like elevated horror. But this is pure horror in the sense that like it is using the uniqueness of horror, with all its tropes and all that, and it's using all those ideas, all that iconography, all those tropes to explore a story that just happens to perfectly fit into this genre. And it's just the most like satisfying avenue to explore it with, because on top of the horror vibes, on top of the sound design, this and on top of the capitalism thing, this is also ultimately a movie about authenticity, and it's a movie about being true to yourself, and it's a movie about what we compromise when we chase success, like the parts of ourselves that we lose, figuratively and literally, when we chase the bag, for figure of speech and all that. And I think what this movie manages to do with those ideas, it's not the deepest fucking thing, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like, movies don't have to be super fucking deep to be enjoyable. In my personal opinion, a movie asks stuff of you, right? Like, you sit down, like if you sit down and watch Casablanca, or okay, I haven't actually seen Casablanca, but let's just say Citizen Kane. You sit down and watch Citizen Kane, you understand that this movie is going to demand a lot of your attention, a lot of your mental capacity, and all that shit. And then you watch a movie like Joe Dirt, foreshadowing. And this movie doesn't ask a lot of brain power. It just kind of asks you like, hey, just like kick back, have a good time. We're just here for some jokes. And what this movie asks of the audience is to prepare yourself, because don't get me wrong, this is not one of the most horrifying movies of all time, but this is a horror ass horror movie. So if you're not a horror ass horror person like my girlfriend, you probably don't want to see this. And that's probably the only person that can imagine it. I can imagine myself not recommending it to. So, yeah, clearly I love Drag Me to Hell, but I recognize that it's not necessarily a movie for people who aren't into horror as a genre, and all that shit. But if that's something you're into and you haven't seen Raimi's, late period horror masterpiece yet, I think it's like the last horror movie he directed. I mean, I think the last movie he directed was, that Marvel movie. I think he directed another Disney movie before that, and then Drag Me to Hell was before. So yeah, so Drag Me to Hell is his like last like horror movie, and I'm glad this movie got made. And it's a bummer that I don't think a movie like this could be made again. But you got to take your wins when you can get them. And this movie is definitely a win if you love horror movies. So, yeah, that's gonna be all for today's episode. If you've seen this movie before, or if you're curious about it, or if what I've said has spurred you to go watch it, I would love to know what you think of it. So please leave your thoughts in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and even if you have, make sure you hit the little bell if it's still there. I think that's something you're supposed to say. I don't know, man. I'm figuring this stuff out as with everyone else. So till next time, I've been Ed. You've been awesome. Peace out. Oh shit. Oh. Wait a minute. Okay, now let me try that again. Till next time, I've been Ed. You've been awesome. Peace out. Later.